That was a moment of my life that I'll never forget. I've decided not to speak at the podium because I didn't think it'd be fair to you guys. Because I'm not that tall. And good for me, because I have a story, because I'm 5'6" tall. I grew up in Steinbach, Manitoba, as you heard. Small little place. Active lights now. And we even have a McDonald's, so we're doing good. And we're just south of Winnipeg, the big city. And I'm really excited to share my volleyball story with you today, because like I said, there's nothing better for me. And I've shared my story a lot of places, to a lot of people. But I feel at home here, because I remember very clearly being in your shoes and sitting in your seats. And I do also remember I never had a sniff at your age that I would ever do that and qualify for an Olympic Games. In fact, that wasn't even in my plan. It wasn't in my thought process. I was playing volleyball because I loved it. I started playing volleyball in grade 7, the Steinbach Junior High. We were the Knights. And I don't know if we were good, but we had... And I made the grade 7, 8 volleyball team, and we played. And I wanted to play because my big sister played, and I thought she was really cool. So that was really my motivation to try and play volleyball. So I played grade 7, 8, and 9, and it was all good. And we went to tournaments, and that was fun. And we got to, go on the bus and stuff, and that was pretty good for me. When I finished grade 9, there was a coach at the high school in Steinbach who approached me, and she says, "You know what, I think you're pretty good at this game. And I think you should try out for the provincial team." Not exactly sure how it works here in Ontario, but in Manitoba, the provincial team, the midget provincial team, is the grade 9 and 10 provincial team. It's like an all-star team, right, for all grade 9 and 10 girls. And she wanted me to go to Winnipeg and try out for this team. I thought she was nuts. And so I said, well, okay, I guess I'll go. Like, do you know that all the girls are really good in Winnipeg? Like, do you know that they're all, tall? Like, did you know that? And she said, well, you should go try anyway. I think you might have a chance. So I went into Winnipeg and tried out for a week long, gave everything I had. I slid and I went for every ball and got home to Steinbach, which is about an hour away, and waited for the phone call. That's how this coach was going to tell me whether I made the team or whether I hadn't. And he told me 2 things. He said, Michelle, you're a good kid, but you're not quite good enough, and you're way too short to play volleyball. So he cut me. Well, that was okay, actually, because to tell you the truth, I didn't think I'd make the team anyway. So that was okay, went on with my summer. Got into the SRSS, the high school in grade 10. I was on the freshman team, and that same coach told me to go try out for that provincial team again. Well, I thought maybe with another year under my belt, I'd maybe have a chance. So sure enough, I drove into Winnipeg for a week and tried out for that provincial team. Gave everything I had and got home, and that same coach was going to tell me whether I made the team or whether I hadn't. And he told me 2 things. He said, you're such a good kid, but you're not quite good enough and you're way too short to play volleyball. I cried a little that year, actually. Stung a little, because I thought you kind of wanted it a little more. It was okay, moved on. Grade 11, I made the varsity team. We were a AA school. We won provincials. I was on the starting lineup. I thought, okay, I'm juvenile age now. It's a different coach. So maybe the other coaches didn't know what he was doing. So I'm going to go out and try out for the juvenile provincial team. They're going to take me for sure. I was the starting setter on this provincial championship team, right? So I go into Winnipeg, and I try out for this team. The tryout camp was a week long, and after the second day, this coach pulled me aside, and I thought maybe that was a good sign, and he said, you know what, I gotta tell you, we really like you, you just give her, you just try so hard, and you go for every ball, and, that's rare. And it was going well, till he said 2 things. He said, you're really not quite good enough, and you're still way too short to play volleyball at this level. And then he looked me in the eye and he told me something I'll never forget as long as I live. He said, don't bother coming back. So I took my stuff off, and that was the day that I decided to quit volleyball forever. I was very adamant about that decision, and I went home and planned my whole summer and decided I had some other things that I could actually do, and I would do that. I'm persistent, but I'm not stupid. So I figured I'd been given the sign, pretty clear, get out of volleyball. All right. So I went on with my summer, and 3 weeks later, I'm at home and my phone rings. rings. And who is it but that coach? Oh, he's in a tough spot, you see? Within a week, both the setters on his team had quit. He didn't know why, but he had nobody. And in his words, it was something like, and you know what, right now in Manitoba, there really isn't anyone your age who can set. So if you want to be on the team, we'll take you. Yeah, for about 30 seconds, I wanted to tell him exactly what he could do with that setter position, but, and I really felt like saying, you know what, you didn't want me before, you can't have me now. And like newsflash, I haven't grown in the last 3 weeks, so I don't know if that's going to help you any. And then 20 seconds later, I said, yes, I'll play. And I was so excited, because that was my foot in the door. Yes, I did go to the Olympics, but that, my friends, was my invitation into the world of volleyball. It was a little desperation on the part of a provincial team coach, but I had shown my face enough that he needed me. So I moved into Winnipeg. I was 16 years old, and we practiced 6 hours a day, all summer. And I decided to do 2 things that summer. 2 things with what I had. Okay, I'd given up on the growing thing. Right, girls? Like, let's face it. When we're in grade 11, it's over. Forget it. Unless you're blessed by God in grade 12, what you got in grade 9, if you're me, that was it. I'm married now. My husband was 6 feet tall when he graduated. He's 6'4" now. It is so unfair. Maybe our kids be tall. I don't know. I wish for them. Anyway, so I decided to do 2 things with what I had. I would be the best I could be. I know, you've heard that before, but listen, be the best I could be. Not better than anybody else, not the best in Manitoba, not the best anywhere, just the best that I could be. And to try harder than anybody else. That became my passion. Every minute of every day, every practice, every team I was ever on, I tried to try harder than anybody. Because it doesn't matter how tall or how short you are. If they ran 14 lines, I ran 15. If some of the girls ran till they almost puked, I ran till I puked. If you did 12 chin-ups, I was going to do 13. Could I? Probably not before I decided or saw her do 12. Then I was going to do 13. If I knew somebody was setting 100 volleyballs that practice, I'd set 200, maybe 3. Because that was trying to try harder than anybody else, and that was being the best I could be. I played that provincial team, and I played the next year in grade 12, and I got recruited to play at the University of Manitoba, as you heard. Now, my deal to play at U of M was, we trained about 3-4 hours a day after school was over, from about 4 till 7 or so, depending on if our coach was in a good mood or a bad mood. Some of you may get that already, I don't know. But the higher level you get, you've got to keep those coaches happy. Anyway, so we would do that 5 days a week, play on the weekends. But my deal to be on the team at the university level, because I was so small, was to do 3 individuals a week, which meant 3 mornings a week, 2 hours each morning. I would go to the gym with the coach and set the volleyball. That's what I would do. Set the volleyball. Over and over and over again. Nobody else on my team ever had to do 3 individuals a week. I didn't really know anyone in Canada who was doing 3 individuals a week. My coach would pick a brick on the wall, and he would tell me to hit it 1,000 times before I left the gym that day. 1,000 times, the same way, to the same brick, because that made me the best I could be. And I didn't know anybody setting 1,000 balls to the same brick on a freezing cold Manitoba morning with a coach who hadn't had his first coffee yet. And I set the ball over and over and over again. And in my time at the university, we did pretty good. We won 3 national championships. You can play for 5 years, so 3 was pretty good. And in those years, I had the great honor of being named best player in Canada for 2 of them. And now, you know what, that whole going to the gym extra and stuff, I figured in my rookie year, totally could do that. Totally, no problem when you're a rookie. That's how it goes anyway. You're like the young one, whatever. Just do more. And then, you know, when you get really good, well, I went to the gym those 3 mornings a week in my first year, in my second year, and my 3rd year, and my 4th year, and my 5th year. It didn't matter how good I got, because me setting in that gym more than anybody else in Canada was what was helping our team to be the best, and was helping me to be the best I could be for my team. So 5 years has come and gone. Stellar university career. I sort of thought so. My next dream, my next goal was to make the national team. At this point, I kind of thought I could maybe do it. And so, the way you get invited to try out for the national team of Canada is you get a letter of invitation, and on this letter it says, congratulations, you have the honor of trying out for the National Women's Volleyball Team of Canada. And I wanted that letter. If I had wanted anything in my life, I wanted that letter. And the coach of the national team called me, and he said, I have your letter of invitation, but I'd like to meet with you first. And I'm like, just mail it to me. Don't meet with me. I know I'm 5'6", and I know that's what you're going to tell me. But you know what? When the coach of the national team calls you to meet, you pretty much salute and say, yes, sir. So I met with him at the Old Spaghetti Factory, a restaurant that's still in Winnipeg, and we sat across the table from each other. And this coach, you saw him on the video, he's sort of a scary guy, like when you play for him. I really like him now, we get along, but he was scary. And he sat across the table from me and he says, well, Michelle, I'm a straightforward kind of guy. I like my players to know their chances of making the team before you come to the tryout camps. You don't have any unreal expectations. I gotta tell you, you had a pretty good university career. But university level is here and international level is here. You are this tall, and everyone who plays international volleyball is this tall. And then he looked me in the eye. And once again, someone said something to me that I will never forget. He said, Michelle, at 5'6" tall, you will never play international volleyball. But I feel like I owe you a tryout, so I would like you to come. He handed me the letter. I walked out of the Old Spaghetti Factory, and I threw it away. I didn't want to go. See, if you look at never up in the dictionary, it's not 60-40, it's not 90-10, it's nothing. And if the guy who's actually picking the team said never, not really seeing the point in going to try out. So, volleyball was done. I'd done really well. I figured I could just go on with my life, do some more music, it would all be good. Until the night before the tryout came, and that coach, who walked with me to the gym 3 mornings a week to set all those volleyballs, yeah, he called me, and he said, how can you not go and try out for the national team? He says, you know how many girls would kill just to have a chance, just to be there, and you're not going to go? And so I kind of told him the never thing, you know, tried to explain that to him, but he didn't really get it. And so he said, well, go. He goes, you have nothing to lose then, he said. You know, you get a cool t-shirt, you know, national team tryout or whatever, and you get to spend 3 weeks with like the best female volleyball players in this entire country, and then he cuts you and you go on with the rest of your life. Okay, I can do that. Fine. Hauled out my volleyball stuff, went to the gym, decided for 3 weeks I was going to have the time of my life, and then I'd move on with my life, and it would be over. First day tryout camp was phenomenal, right? You girls know, when no one's watching you and no one cares, you don't make mistakes, right? It's like you're serving aces and you're like setting every 51 and 31 like perfect, like you never could before, but no one cares anyway, and you're getting cut anyway, so I was like on fire, you know? And that was cool. And then the second day came, and I walked in, and I was trying really hard to keep the same attitude, you know, really easygoing, really fun, and then I looked around the gym, and every girl in that gym I'd played against for 5 years, and every girl in that gym I had beaten for 5 years. And I knew they were all 6'2" and 6'4", just these giant girls, and I knew they were all amazing, but I knew something else. Something clicked in my head and in my heart, and I knew I could make the team. I just knew it. Why did I know it? I don't know why I knew it. I just knew it. Well, actually, I know why I knew it. Because I knew that I could try harder than anybody in that gym. And I also knew that this coach, who knew a lot and had seen me play, had never seen me practice every day. And so, you know like those burrs, like, you guys are kind of rural, you know, around here. You know, like those burrs that stick on your pants, you know, when you go, that you can't get them off, like it sucks, you know? And I decided that I would just become one of those to that coach, you know? See if you can get rid of me, buddy, you know? So I the door. The hardest part about that moment for me, though, was that I had to try again. Quitting at the time is actually quite easy, because you don't have to do anything. Trying to reach a goal and to make your dream come true is really, really, really hard. And I changed my mindset that moment, and I decided to be the best I could be, and I decided to try harder than anybody else. The end of the 3-week tryout camp, good news is I made the team. The hardest part about being on the national team was that about every 2 or 3 months that year, the coach was going to cut me because there was a girl who was 6'1" from Calgary who was going to come and take my place. Then there was a girl from Ontario who was 6'2", and she was going to come and take my place. And some of them came, and most of them left. And one girl hurt her shoulder, and then she was gone. And so finally, at the end of summer, you see, I made the team in May of '93. By the end of summer, I finally summoned up my nerve, and I asked the coach for a meeting. And I said, look, I get that I'm sort of on the bubble here, and that every couple months you sort of can just sort of let me go, but what I really need to know from you is that I can be on the team for a year like everybody else. You give me another tryout next May, and you can cut me on the first day, but I need to be here for a year. Do you know that it took him a night to think about that, actually? He went home and came back and he said, well, fine, you can stay on the team, you know? So we were playing and things were going okay. We were on a tour with the USA, and this was the following, stay with me now, the following February, okay? So I'd been on the team about 10 months, and I hadn't played a game. I practiced my brains out, but I hadn't played a game. We were playing USA in USA. We were down 8-1 in the third game. I'm so old, we only played to 15, you probably noticed that. Anyway, I get it, you play to 25 and all that, I get that. So anyway, so we were down 8-1 in the third game, and we got killed the first 2 games. And I'm sitting by the coach and I'm taking notes, because that was my job. And so he puts his hand on my knee at 8-1, okay? 1 for us, 8 for them. And he looks at me and he said it just like this. Well, do you want to go in? I said, sure, put me in. So he put me and my girlfriend in, and we hadn't been playing. We came back and won that game. We won the 4th game. We lost the 5th game, 15-13 or something. The next night, kind of the same thing. I went in the third. We went 5 of them. And after that tour, I became the starting center on the national team. He had a meeting with me and sort of begrudgingly told me that, yeah, well, I guess you'll be starting for Canada Cup and for the remainder of the time if you can keep up your work, you know. So I was so excited, and it was amazing, and that was in 1994. So for the next 2.5 years, I was the starting center of the national team. Isn't that great? What a great end to my story, but it's so far from over. March of '96 is what you saw on the screen. I was starting, we were playing, our team had been together for a long time, and we were qualifying for the Olympic Games. It was the first time ever that the Canadian national women's volleyball team actually qualified legitimately. We won the teams that we had to, or we beat the teams that we had to beat in our zone to go. And the moment that Janice hit that last ball, and you know, setters, do you get it? Did you see? Like I went all the way back to 1, and I set it all the way outside. Like, you guys, you know how hard that is, right? I had done that like 20 million times, and I did it, and we won, and we qualified for the Olympic Games, and it was a moment like none other. And we had been training so hard for that moment. Now, 8 months before that moment, we had recruited a setter who was 6'1". She was from Ontario, and she was really good. But I had been starting for 3 years, and she joined us just before, and she was really good and really experienced. But I was going to be starting, right? We had our team together. Well, July came, and it was a month before we left for the Olympics, or end of June. And the coach had a meeting with our team. He never met with me first. He just met with our team. And this is what he said. Girls, I've made a decision. I don't think we can compete at the Olympic Games with a setter who's only 5'6" tall. So Michelle will not be playing. And Diane was in. I left that meeting, went to my apartment, and for about 2 hours, almost punched a hole in the wall. I was so mad. I was finally so mad. It seemed unfair. It seemed totally brutal. That now my dream was going to come true, and I'd be sitting on the bench, and I just got shafted. For 2 hours, I was mad. And it took me 2 hours And then a light went on in my head. And thank God that light went off in my head. And I realized that it wasn't about me anymore. I was playing a team sport. It wasn't about me. Wow. So you know what I did? Got up off my bed and wiped my tears. And I said out loud to myself that I would be the best bench player in the entire world. If you're going to play the best in the world, my friends, you take the role you've been given and you be the best at it. Of course, many of you know that sitting on the bench isn't only sitting on the bench. It's all the practices before the tournament that you're making that starting six better. And I figured, you know what? You know what, 6'1"er? You're going to be good at the Olympics because I'm going to push you every minute of every practice until we get there because that's my role on this team and I'm going to be the best at what I've been given. I went back to the gym, had a great month. We took off for the Olympics, we landed in Atlanta, and it was so cool because you're like sort of famous, you know, when you get there. And the cameras are in your face and you try to look really cool, like you're so used to it, you know. None of us have like ever been anywhere like that before. We're like, holy moly, like a Shaquille O'Neal, and like, you know, it was really so amazing. Arnold Schwarzenegger, like he came to the Athletes Village to show us one of his movies, you know. Like I was like this far away from him. He didn't really say hi to me, but I sort of pretend to remember that maybe he did. I wasn't cool at the Olympics in the Village. I got autographs and pictures because I was there once, baby, and it didn't matter. Anyway, the food court is amazing at the Olympics. Not to just talk about food. But it's like this gym times like 2 or 3, and then there's like 3 of them. And it's like 24 hours a day, and it's like all free. You know, and you get there and you get this big duffel bag just packed with like stuff. And it's just a moment. I mean, there are a million moments that I could share. The opening ceremonies are amazing and all the rest of it, but I don't have time to share a million memories with you. So I will share one great memory and a little bit more. But this is my best memory, and as long as I live, I think this memory will catch me in my heart and in my throat because it was unbelievable. We were playing Cuba. That was our first match. Our first match of the Olympics. I don't know if you know, but Cuba was the best women's team in the world for like ever. They won in 88 and 92 and 94 and 96 and or whatever. You know, they just kept winning. And we got to play them first, so lucky us. And we were warming up with them in the gym on the court. And this is the Omni Coliseum that sat 25,000 people. Like there weren't quite 25,000 people in there, but it's like you could hardly see the seats in the very last row. And we were warming up in there, and we were sort of shuffled off to the corner, and the Olympics is all about that. They have to parade you on and off and everything. And we were lined up in the corner outside the gym, and we were standing lined up right next to Cuba. Now Cuba's second six could have won the Olympics, okay? So you get my picture here. So I look across this foot of space, and I'm standing next to the 12 best volleyball players in the whole world. And one neat thing, actually not really totally part of my memory, but they line you up according to height. So like I got to know first. But anyway, shortest to tallest, yeah, got it. Anyway, so I'm looking at Cuba, and the Olympic music started to play. And you know it when you hear it. I can't really remember it, but you know it when you hear it, and then the announcer said, and now the Olympic team from Canada. And then I ran into the gym. After the announcer said that, I was still 5'6", and I was still from Steinbach, Manitoba. Where the heck is that? And I was, I'd like to remind you, I didn't play 1 minute of that game. I sat on the bench, took the best notes in the world, and I was so proud to be on that team because I knew that everyone on the floor and everyone on the bench, and all of us were there with the Canadian leaf on our back. And it was an incredible, incredible moment. Now, the Olympics weren't going so well for us. The first 3 matches, we sort of got killed. Probably because Russia's tallest player was 6'9". Okay, so my coach had a point. But anyway, the third match was against Germany, and we were down, ironically, 8-1 in the third game. And my coach leaned over to me and he said, "Well, do you want to go in?" And I looked at him and I said, because I knew I only had to play for him for 3 more matches. And I said, "Are you for real? This is the Olympic Games. You don't think I want to go in?" Subbed me in, and we didn't win that game, but we came back and lost 50-12. I got to play the rest of the tournament. We were playing Peru in the end with our old lineup all back together. In the history of women's volleyball in Canada, before 1996, the Canadian women's team had never won a game at the Olympics, ever, not a game. We played Peru, it was our last match. We were playing for 9th, and we were playing for a lot of pride. And we played that best of 5 till 5 games. And the last hit of the match, the power hitter from Peru hit the ball over me and way out of bounds. And we won. And a little bit of history was made that day. The Canadian women's volleyball team won a match at the Olympics. And I was on the court. Do you know that I came down from that block and I took off my shoes and I took off my knee pads and I knew it would never get any better than that moment. To win a match at the Olympic Games for Canada was incredible. Now, I guess you could think it's not that hard to be motivated to play at the Olympics, but it's very much the same, believe it or not, as what you're doing here. I remember my grade 11 provincial championship. I remember it with all my heart. I remember who we beat, and I remember how we played. Okay, I remember myself playing a little better than I probably did. That's okay. So why are you playing this weekend? Playing for your teammates. I bet you some of you are playing with your very best friends. And you may not see some of those friends after high school's over, but you'll always remember how amazing they were, and how they supported you, how they set you when your coach told them not to, how they dug the ball that you missed the block on, and how they kept it going and kept you going when you felt so yucky you didn't want to play another minute. You're playing for your teammates. You're playing for your coaches because you respect them and they've put in more time than you even know. You're playing for the time that you've put in the gym. And if you trust your training, you will be okay this weekend. I hope you're playing for the love of the game. This is an awesome game. Volleyball is an awesome game. There aren't many games where you have to rely on your teammates so strongly as volleyball. And I would just like to encourage you. Okay, I know that if you don't win this weekend, it's going to suck for a while. Okay, I know that. I get that. But you know what? And that's okay to be sad about that. But I have to tell you one thing that'll make this never bad. Whatever you do here this weekend is if you leave it all on the floor. Whether it's the skin from your elbows, off your shins and your knees, because you're giving everything you know possible for your team. If you leave it all on the floor, you will have won. Because life is just like that. Life is just like leaving it all on the floor. And when volleyball was over for me, life went on. And now everything I do, I try to be the best I can be. And I try harder than anybody else. I didn't think having twins would really be included in that, but I had them. And anyway, enjoy this. Enjoy this. Because it's some of the best times you'll ever have in your life. I hope that you go out there this weekend, and maybe a little bit of my story has motivated you, that when people tell you you're too short, or you're too big, or you're too fat, or you're too skinny, or you're not pretty enough, or you're not good enough to do what you want to do, that you will just say, "That's fine, sir. I'll see you at practice tomorrow." Thank you.